Today, we re-diving into 4 tragic plane crash stories, from private flights to passenger jets, that shocked communities and left heartbreaking lessons behind. Let's begin with the first incident. Incident 1. Family vacation turns deadly mid-flight. It was July 14, 2018, in Flagstaff, Arizona, when David Ramirez, 42-year-old small business owner, boarded his private single-engine plane with his wife and 2 children. They were heading to California for a long-awaited family vacation, excited about a beach holiday that had been planned for months. The day began with laughter, snacks packed by his wife, and a sense of adventure. None of them could have imagined the tragedy ahead. As David took off from Pulliam Airport, the weather seemed clear, but within minutes, clouds began to roll in, creating unexpected turbulence. Passengers on the ground later recalled hearing the buzz of his small aircraft dipping unusually low. The plane suddenly jerked, as David struggled with controls, while strong crosswinds battered the wings. Inside, his wife clutched the children's hands, terrified as the aircraft tilted sharply. The small plane's engine sputtered, a sign of fuel flow problems worsened by the sudden drop in air pressure. Neighbors in the outskirts of Flagstaff watched in horror as the plane spiraled downward. Calls to 911 flooded in as smoke trailed from the engine. In a desperate attempt, David aimed for an empty stretch of field, hoping to land safely. Moments later, the aircraft struck the ground with a deafening impact. Flames engulfed the fuselage instantly, leaving nearby residents racing with fire extinguishers before emergency crews could arrive. Firefighters pulled the family from the wreckage, performing CPR on the children while paramedics fought to revive them. Despite their efforts, all 4 family members succumbed to their injuries on the way to the hospital. The aftermath devastated Flagstaff. Investigators later revealed that poor weather forecasts and a delayed maintenance check on the engine had combined to create the fatal outcome. The tragedy became a grim reminder of how unpredictable small aircraft flights can be, especially when weather turns against even experienced pilots. Incident 2. Passenger jet's final minutes of terror. It was September 9, 2020, in Denver, Colorado, when Flight 326, a mid-sized commercial passenger jet carrying 144 people, prepared for what should have been a routine journey to Chicago. Among the passengers was 29-year-old Olivia Carter, a nurse traveling to visit her sister after months of pandemic lockdowns. The atmosphere on board was lighthearted, with families chatting and business travelers catching up on emails. 30 minutes into the flight, things changed drastically. At 32,000 feet, the right engine emitted a loud bang, shaking the cabin violently. Passengers screamed as overhead compartments flew open, spilling luggage into the aisles. Flight attendants tried to calm everyone, but oxygen masks suddenly deployed when cabin pressure dropped. Olivia texted her sister, "Something's wrong. I love you." The pilots declared an emergency and attempted to turn back toward Denver, but flames burst from the failing engine, and smoke began filling parts of the cabin. Witnesses on the ground later reported seeing fire trailing the aircraft as it descended erratically. Passengers gripped their seats, many praying aloud as turbulence made the situation worse. In the cockpit, the captain and first officer fought to stabilize the jet, guiding it toward an open field east of the city. The aircraft clipped treetops before crashing nose first into the ground. The impact tore the fuselage apart, scattering debris across acres of farmland. Emergency responders rushed to the scene within minutes, but the devastation was overwhelming. Only 23 passengers survived, many with life-threatening burns and fractures. Olivia was among those who perished instantly in the crash. In the days that followed, investigators discovered that a turbine blade had fractured due to metal fatigue, causing catastrophic engine failure. The tragedy made national headlines, sparking renewed debates about stricter safety inspections and airline accountability. Families of victims gathered at candlelight vigils, holding photos of their loved ones, a chilling reminder of how fragile life is when flying thousands of feet above the earth. Incident 3. Cargo flight ends in fiery disaster. It was December 3, 2016, in Memphis, Tennessee, when a 3-man crew boarded cargo flight 812, a large freighter loaded with electronics destined for Europe. The captain, Mark Stevens, 54, had decades of flying experience and was respected for his steady hand in emergencies. The crew joked during pre-flight checks, unaware that the night would end in catastrophe. The takeoff seemed smooth, but at 10,000 feet, warning alarms began blaring. Hydraulic system failure caused the plane's landing gear to jam partially open. The drag severely impacted altitude control while leaking hydraulic fluid spread toward the hot engine. Inside the cockpit, Mark instructed his co-pilot to declare an emergency while he attempted manual controls. The massive freighter circled the airport as air traffic controllers cleared runways. Fire trucks and ambulances lined up, preparing for a risky landing attempt. Passersby on nearby highways stopped their cars, watching as the aircraft descended with sparks flashing from its belly. Seconds before touchdown, the leaking hydraulic fluid ignited, engulfing the right side of the plane in flames. The aircraft slammed into the runway, skidding violently before exploding in a massive fireball that lit up the night sky. The force of the blast shattered windows and buildings miles away. Emergency crews rushed forward, battling the inferno with foam hoses. Despite their efforts, the 3 crew members perished in the blaze, trapped in the cockpit. Investigators later determined that a maintenance oversight weeks earlier had allowed a small crack in the hydraulic line to go undetected, leading to the failure. The cargo airline faced intense scrutiny, and new regulations were introduced requiring more rigorous checks of hydraulic systems across the industry. The tragedy underscored how even non-passenger flights carry enormous risks for crews who dedicate their lives to aviation. Incident 4. Helicopter ride turns into nightmare. It was March 22, 2022, in Anchorage, Alaska, when 37-year-old outdoor photographer Rachel Kim joined a helicopter tour to capture the region's stunning glaciers. She had dreamed of this moment for years, bringing along her best friend to share the adventure. The morning sky was clear, but forecasts warned of a fast-approaching snowstorm. As the helicopter lifted off, passengers marveled at the breathtaking scenery. Rachel snapped dozens of photos, unaware that shifting winds were beginning to push the aircraft off course. The pilot, an experienced bush flyer, radioed air traffic control to report worsening conditions. But within minutes, visibility dropped to near zero. The helicopter hit violent downdrafts, jolting the passengers as it swayed dangerously close to mountain ridges. "Oh!" Rachel clutched her camera, recording shaky video as fear set in. Suddenly, the chopper's tail rotor struck an icy ledge, causing it to spin uncontrollably. Witnesses at a distant lodge reported hearing the whir of blades followed by a thunderous crash. The helicopter slammed into a snow-covered slope, breaking apart on impact. Avalanche conditions worsened the chaos, burying parts of the wreckage under heavy snow. Rescue teams battled blizzard conditions to reach the site, eventually locating survivors with thermal imaging. Tragically, Rachel and 2 other passengers did not survive. The pilot and 1 injured passenger were airlifted out alive, but in critical condition. In the aftermath, the National Transportation Safety Board cited poor judgment in flying into worsening weather. The story made headlines nationwide, sparking debates over whether sightseeing tours should face stricter regulations in Alaska's unpredictable climate. Rachel's photography gear was later recovered, their final images showing the moments just before the storm engulfed the helicopter, a haunting reminder of how quickly adventure can turn into tragedy. Next incident. Routine flight turns into fiery tragedy. It was August 29, 2018, in Kathmandu, Nepal, when Rajesh Malhotra, a 36-year-old businessman, boarded a domestic flight to Kolkata for a quick meeting. For him, short flights across the country had become routine. That morning, he kissed his wife goodbye and promised his daughter he would be home in time for dinner, completely unaware of the danger that was about to unfold. As Rajesh settled into his seat, the weather outside began to shift. Dark clouds rolled over the valley, and light rain tapped against the windows. The plane taxied smoothly and lifted into the air, but within minutes, turbulence rattled the cabin. Some passengers clutched their armrests nervously, while others reassured each other it was just a bump in the sky. But then the aircraft began to veer unexpectedly. Witnesses on the ground later recalled seeing it flying unusually low and tilting side to side. Inside, passengers gasped as oxygen masks dangled suddenly from overhead. The pilots, battling poor visibility and technical malfunctions, issued frantic calls to air traffic control. The plane clipped a tree line before spiraling toward the edge of the airport's runway. A deafening crash followed as metal tore apart and flames erupted. Rajesh, seated near the middle of the aircraft, was thrown violently against the seat in front of him. Screams filled the cabin as smoke engulfed the wreckage. Rescue crews and bystanders rushed to the scene. Firefighters battled the flames, while paramedics pulled survivors from the twisted fuselage. Rajesh was found unconscious, badly burned, and critically injured. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, where doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize him. Despite their efforts, he succumbed to his injuries later that evening. His death sent shockwaves through his family and community. Local businesses closed their doors in mourning, and neighbors filled the family's home to offer condolences. Investigators later revealed a combination of pilot error and mechanical failure had caused the crash, sparking national outrage and renewed demands for stricter aviation safety standards. Rajesh's story spread across international news, a heartbreaking reminder that even the most ordinary journey, one meant to last less than an hour, can end in catastrophe. For his wife and daughter, the tragedy left an unfillable void, turning what should have been a routine business trip into a lifelong heartbreak.